Welcome to the Other 99% podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Duck, a coffee-loving direct sales enthusiast who's obsessed with a good digital system. Come join me for a realistic look into the world of direct sales. We'll explore inspiring perspectives, learn about unique business tips, and celebrate success stories that often go untold. Because on the Other 99%, every seller matters. Hey everyone, it is me, Lisa, and welcome back to the podcast. We are on another episode of The Other 99%, and I'm super excited to have our special guest with us here today, Sarah. Sarah, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, I'm so excited when you said, hey, yeah, I'd be a guest on the podcast. I'm like, come on in, here's the link, join, I want to talk to you. So, um, let's take a peek. Can you just tell the listeners a little bit about you? Who's
Yes.
Sarah?
First of all, I just want to say, again, thanks for having me, but congratulations. I'm really proud of you for
Oh,
doing
thank
this.
you.
I know this has been a work in progress.
It has
So
been.
stepping out of your comfort zone and finally doing it. So congratulations. So I've been in direct sales since 2009. I started with a company from California. So I currently live in central Wisconsin. I lived in California for a couple of years, and typically Wisconsin, if you're familiar with the US, is sometimes about 6 times behind the curve. We're not very trendy. We're a little bit late in the game. So when I moved back from California back to Wisconsin, I had found a company and I wanted to get ahead of the curve. So I brought this company back to Wisconsin when I moved.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, the company did fizzle out. I did, however, learn the potential of the direct sales company. So I quickly sought after another one to join. 4 direct sales gigs later, kind of hopping around like my lily pads, I finally found my current company, Epicure, about 4 years ago, and I haven't looked back. Um, I love that it shares my morals and my values, clean ingredients, gets me food on the table fast for my family. Well, we have a very busy family. My husband is a coach of 2 varsity sports. He refs, drives bus, all the things, and I am starting to get into my sports mom era. So we are very, very, very busy. I do also work full time. So doing tastings at my house or just events my kids can come to, just fitting it around mine and my husband's busy schedule has really just helped a ton, even just getting my kids involved. So I can elaborate more on that in a moment.
So, what made you choose? Because you said you jumped around from 4 different direct sales companies. So, what made you finally choose Epicure? I know you said that it like aligns with your values. Um, but what was it about Epicure?
I'm gonna have to say the clean ingredients. It's kind of the easy button for reading labels and recipes. I know I had a life experience happen in 2008 that made me just a lot more open to reading labels and knowing we're putting in and on our bodies.
Hmm.
It's the easy button. It's clean. The price point, it's very similar, like your taco season that you buy in the store versus what you buy with us. It's very comparable,
Hmm.
consumable products, and really just anybody can cook with Epicure. It's that easy. I have to kind of chuckle a little bit because even my one of my direct uplines, she's not even a good cook, and she'll flat out tell you that. But with Epicure, anybody can do it.
Yeah, I giggle when you say that because I absolutely hate cooking. And people are like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Well, that's why I love Epicure because it makes it so easy to put meals on the table. I don't like being in the kitchen, so get me in as quick and in and out as quick as possible, and I will thank you forever." So I could totally totally relate to that. Um, and if anybody is looking for something like quick and easy, definitely they need to check out the Epicure website because our meals like rot ready in 20 minutes or less. And like you said, clean ingredients. It's just so good. So easy to
It's
use.
so simple.
Hmm.
I remember somebody giving me a recipe at one time, and I couldn't pronounce some of the ingredients to put in the recipe, or I had no idea where to find them in my little, small town grocery store. So I love that it's just simple, easy ingredients that typically everybody already has in their pantries.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So I know that a lot of direct sales companies right now are really, really telling us we need to be back in person. But I'm a big believer that we need to run our businesses how we need to run our businesses. We decide whether we're in person, virtual, a mix of both. So, can you tell the listeners a little bit about what you do? Like how do you run your business? Like what do you do? Do you do in person? I know you said you were doing events, so just elaborate a little bit on that, please.
Yes. So I'm a talker. I love seeing people. I'm a very outgoing person. So I really do a lot of my stuff in person, in vendor events. And I like that part of my business too, because yes, I do still work full time. So I can fit these in-person events in at night. A lot of times they're with, moms that are in my age or have my same kids, the kids' age. So I can either bring my kids or I'll even just have them at my house because then I'm like, come on over and your kids can come over because we're in the same point of life. I do a lot of vendor events, which are usually on the weekend,
Mm-hmm.
but I really do a lot of in person. I really truly feel that people need to. We're newer in the US here still. So
Mm-hmm.
Epicure has only been in the US for 4 years. So people are still trying to figure out what is it, why. So until we get to become that household name, which I truly believe we will be, I feel that people really need to see, smell, taste, and even maybe even touch the products.
Yeah, for sure.
They also need to see our magical purple steamer in action. So I do a little bit of I'm struggling in the virtual realm of things, but I do dabble in and I do some Instagram and TikTok reels, especially with demoing that purple machine. Our steamer is amazing. So mainly in person and then doing some reels and fun things on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, I sorry, I refer to the steamer as the purple people pleaser. So that is definitely a must see. So yes, if you, like Sarah said, if you haven't seen it in action, you really need to check it out, whether it's a video or invite one of us into your home and we'll definitely show you how it works. But like a whole chicken from raw to ready in like 20 to 25 minutes, like that's just unheard of. That's crazy.
Chicken fajitas, the chicken and the vegetables in the microwave in 7 minutes. Boom.
Yeah.
Gonna save me a trip through the drive-through on the way to the sporting events. Thank God.
Now, did you join Epicure right when it came into the US or when did you join?
I joined, so it was summer, fall of 21. So
Okay.
almost a year into Epicure being in the US. So I had my youngest in spring of 2020, and that's when I was first introduced. So not only was I home with my baby, but it was also smack dab in the middle of COVID when we're all on lockdown. So I was eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I discovered Epicure then as a customer, had a party over the summer, and then realized that I'm going to always have these products in my home. They do match my morals and my values with just clean ingredients. So why not join? So I think it was October 2021 when I joined.
Yeah. And I think honestly, I always say if it wasn't for COVID, Epicure would be in a different place in the US right now because like they started in the summer of what 2019 and then all of a sudden 2020
Hmm.
March 2020 the world shut down and like you said a lot of people especially in a new market need to taste the products. So unfortunately, that probably halted our growth, but I can see us taking off like crazy now in the US. So, and I know you're going to be one of the leaders who are out there sharing the great products. So, can you tell the listeners what, in your time with Epicure, what is your proudest event? Like, what are you most proud of?
So probably really just involving my kids in my business. I have a Facebook group that sometimes my daughter will come in, and this is usually all her idea. She just turned 8 in January, so on the way home from school or daycare, she'd be like, "Mom, can we make mac and cheese tonight and video it? Or can we make pancakes?" So I'm like, okay, so we've kind of dubbed this thing in my Facebook group, um, Cooking with Kylie.
Mm-hmm.
So just really getting my kids involved, showing them how to cook, incorporating them into my business, and allowing them to put stickers on envelopes at times or I have done vendor events where I've had my daughter come along. She's the oldest. My other ones are still quite young yet, but she
Mhm.
sold so many mac and cheeses because she was just honest, like, you guys need the mac and cheese. It's amazing. So buy mac and cheese for my mom. In fact, she wrote a sign and I thought I had taken a picture of it or kept it, but for my archives, but unfortunately I didn't. But so probably just really getting my kids to in the kitchen, incorporating them into the business and showing them that we need to work hard for what we want in life. So just giving them those morals and values. Also just being authentic and being me. I did at one point in time kind of burn myself out with the Epicure business and just trying to do all the things and trying all the things. And I think really I took a couple steps back and really just at that moment decided, you know what, just be you, do you, stay in your lane, which I'll kind of come back to in a little bit, but just stay in your lane, be you, be authentic. Um, and I've just really met some really good people too along the way. So,
Mhm. Yeah, well, it's funny that we're both in Epicure, but we didn't technically meet through Epicure. We met through the Modern Direct Seller Academy. So I absolutely love how, the whole direct sales world, it just comes full circle and you meet so many great people by just reaching out and doing things in that realm, let's say. Like, I mean, Becky just is a great coach for anybody looking for tips and tricks on direct sales. And that is one thing that I've always said was the biggest turning point in my business. And I've been in direct sales for almost 18 years now. And it was when I ventured outside of my company to learn things. So, I mean, I'm sure you could agree because you probably learned so many more things in the academy
mhm,
than you would have had learned if you would have stuck to the Epicure trainers and so forth. But I'm so happy that I
100.
met you there.
Yes,
And
me too. I know, I agree 100%. I've always been I dub myself the personal development junkie. And I've always done and consumed so many things. I'm so thankful I found her because I kind of just zoned in and
hmm
ignored everything else and just take what she teaches us and spin it in my own way just to be me and be authentic and do things my way.
Awesome. Now I know because we're both in the academy that you would have already set out some goals for 2024. So can you share with the listeners what you have planned? Like what big things can we expect from Sarah?
Well, yes, I'm in the academy, but I've never really been a goal setter. I'm kind of a fly by the seat of my pants. I really struggle with goal setting. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. I had a shower thought this morning, and I feel like I finally set my first goal
Well,
for the
that's
year. And
great.
yes, um, so I really, really, really want to take my kids to Disney in 2025. So I had that shower thought this morning. So I'm going to create some sort of fun graphic and fill in little Mickey Mouse ears every time I hit a certain point in our Operation Disney is what I'm going to call it, and get my kids
Ah,
involved so that they know that when I go to an in-person party or if I'm going to a vendor event, like I'm working to get us to Disney,
mm-hmm.
Operation Disney, because my goal is to get them in summer 2025. My youngest will then be 5, so they'll be 5, 7, and 9. So I really want to get them when they can still see the true magic of Disney, but yet are old enough to kind of take it all in. So
That's awesome. And you know what? I agree with you because I'm not a goal setter either. So, I mean, my goals aren't your typical goals. Like I'm not a write it out and plan it out. I just have like, with this podcast, it's like I have a goal to create a podcast and then I just figure out how to do it. But in terms of writing it down and making it happen, that's not me either. And I giggle at that. It's like maybe I wonder if I could really figure out how to like write it down and make it happen. Like where would I be in my business? Like, do you ever wonder that? Like if we could actually do some goal setting and the way they tell us to do it and then break it down, like how many you have to do a month. So I often wonder, I'm like, maybe that's something that you and I, Sarah, have to dig into a little bit more. Can you imagine all
I'm
of
gonna
the
I'm gonna
things?
laugh if Becky does hear this podcast because with being in the academy we get some one-on-one time with her, and I know this has been one of the things that she's like, "What's your goal?" I'm like, "I don't know yet, but I think I got it this morning." Aha! Shower thoughts.
I'd message her and say, okay, Operation Disney, that's my goal.
No,
Awesome.
push me
Uh,
through.
yeah, exactly. So I always ask our guests on the podcast to share. Is there one quote or a piece of advice that you've heard through your years in direct sales that you think every direct seller needs to hear?
Yes. And because I'm special and can never just have one, um, my first one, my first thought that came to me is the only way to quit is if you quit yourself. When I was stuck in that rut and kind of burnt myself out, that was the thing that stuck me. It's okay, just don't quit. Just don't give up. Just stay in your lane, which is my second one. So
Mhm.
really just stay in your lane. I remember being told that when I first started with Epicure, actually, was stay in your lane. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like, what do you mean by that? And then I heard a story about Michael Phelps, and that just completely like resonated with me. Sometimes I need to have analogies to understand things. And the Michael Phelps story. So he was swimming, and I don't know the other guy's name off the top of my head, but he was swimming with one of the best of the best. And he was afraid that he was not going to win against this other competitor. And he just said, you know what, heads down. I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm not going to look around me and really just stay in my lane and focus and not look to see where they're at to see if I'm beating them or not. So he did end up winning that first initial race. And because he stood in his lane, he didn't look up, halfway through to see where the other guy was. He just focused on the end goal and stayed in his lane. So I think hearing that story and that analogy, I finally get it. So staying in my lane and to not quit unless you're going to quit on yourself.
Absolutely. I love that stay in your lane because I think that's a lot like comparison. Like comparison is our worst enemy. And I know that many of us struggle with the comparison thing. It's like, well, if they can do it and they're making all this money and they're doing all these sales, why can't we be like them? And it's like, because we're not them. We're us, and we need to realize that we need to do what we need to do. And I totally love that you gave the story behind that quote because I think many of our listeners can truly relate to that. So I appreciate that. Thank you. All right,
Yeah.
Sarah. So one more thing before we go, I always like to ask, where can people find you? Like, do you have a group on Facebook or something that they can look for you there? I can always put a link in the show notes too. So,
Yeah. So I hang out on Instagram under Mama Sarah _3. I'm also dabbling into the TikTok world. So I believe we might have to quote that one in the show
okay.
notes, but I think I am Mama Sarah _03. Unfortunately,
Okay.
they're not matching. And then I do have a VIP Facebook group that anybody can come into. So I'm Sarah's Real Clean Kitchen, not because I'm really clean in the kitchen, because we are real. My daughter's awful cooking in there sometimes, and we have clean, solid ingredients. So we are just real, authentic in our kitchen, just being silly and goofy. I'm gonna kind of throw in this funny too, because one of the first times I ever went live, stepping out of my comfort zones, I was outside opening a box on my porch, and my son was probably 4 at the time, was driving in his little four wheeler
Uh-huh.
or UT or his little four wheeler, and he ended up crashing across the
Oh
street. And I'm
no.
like, all right, guys, well, we'll be right back. But like the first time I ever wanted to go live, I could have stopped me. We have gone live since, but we are real and we are clean ingredients in our kitchen over here.
That's awesome. And I know that your customers truly appreciate your realness because that's why they know, love, and trust you, right? So thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us on the podcast. And if anybody wants to get in contact with Sarah, I will have her links in the show notes. But again, thanks so much. And we will see you on the next podcast. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you would take a minute to rate and then review the podcast, I would absolutely love it. And if you know someone who really needs to hear this podcast, please feel free to share it with them. More listeners, the better. And if you know someone who would like to be a guest on the podcast or you yourself would like to be a guest, be sure to check the link in the show notes or visit lisaduck.com and click Be a Guest. We'll talk to you soon.